Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. You're on the air.
Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. Ladies and gentlemen, Vladi, Dottie, Silicon Steve Valley. We're here talking the very best in pro wrestling, and we are on the eve of the great and wonderful, most anticipated waste of time that WWE puts on every year, Backlash. Yes, you know Backlash. The spot in between WrestleMania and Backlash and the build of Backlash. Not exactly the best time in WWE. It's been a lull, it's been boring, and we have 5 matches in the great country of France. And Vladi Dottie, this one, I don't think we're going to have anything different on it because these all seem like layups. But WWE, they are having their premium live event. I believe it's starting at 5 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
But I'm probably not going to watch
it on the East Coast.
What is it?
No. It's an early start on the East Coast. It's way early, and honestly, seemingly with how this card might be predictable, it's not like must-see TV, in my opinion. So, if something cool happens, check in with it, but otherwise, it's nothing to necessarily get too crazy about. It seems like we're coming down with a little bit of a downward spiral since Cody won it and finished his story. So
I don't know if I want to blame Cody.
Oh, no, I'm not blaming Cody by any means, but again, you mentioned the word lull. I agree with it. I feel like it's like WWE purgatory. It's the draft. It's Backlash. It's, I don't know. It just, there's a little bit of a step down.
Yeah, I mean,
now
we're sort of.
I'm sorry, go. Now we're just sort of kicking the can back and forth and waiting for things to pan out and say, okay, this is the feud's going forward.
Yeah, WWE has not been great lately. It's not been terrible. Hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been very good. I would suggest, and we're going to get into AEW a little bit, I don't know if we'll agree, but I would suggest AEW programming has been better since Cody Rhodes beat Roman Reigns. I think the at least the Dynamites have been, by and large, more interesting, more things getting set up than we've had on WWE programming. But that's just one guy's opinion. But we'll get into it. Right now we have Backlash. This may be the least anticipated pay-per-view I remember in a very long time. A very long time.
Absolutely. And look at the percentage of championship matches. Almost all of them.
Yeah. But
so nothing's going to happen.
Are any of them in any question whatsoever, though? I mean, come on. But anyway, Vladi, let's get to it. I'm defending the purple nipple. I was an idiot, and I took Samoa Joe just because I didn't want him to have that short of a reign. But I was an idiot. Swerve won. You now have a 1-match lead as we go to Double or Nothing, which we're Double or Nothing, I believe we agreed on. So after this one, we only have Double or Nothing, and we're done.
Wow. Okay. Well, seems like this is of huge importance. So let us begin.
We're off.
Let's lead off with the WWE Women's Championship match, where we have the champion Bayley in a triple threat match versus Naomi and also Tiffany Stratton. Are you ready for some Tiffy time there, Mr. Valli?
I will say this. This was the one match that I thought maybe there could be a Tiffany Stratton victory. But, damn, Bayley won this less than a month ago. I don't think she has a Randy Orton type title reign here or a Charlotte Flair type title reign here. I think Bayley holds on to it. Triple H doesn't seem like he wants championship reigns to be too wasted, unless it's Drew McIntyre, I guess. So I think Bayley wins this one. I was teetering because obviously Tiffany Stratton is going to be a major player. She's going to be a main event. She's already being pushed there. She has come on, and I don't love NXT talent when they come up typically, but Tiffany Stratton is someone I really, really like, but I don't think her time is just yet.
No, I agree with you. So you went with Bayley?
Yeah, I'm going Bayley.
Yeah, and I agree with you there as well. So, and for all the reasons you said, there's no way that you're going to have Bayley drop this title the first pay-per-view after. That would be total transitional sort of label against this reign, and it's not necessary at this moment by any means. So Bailey deserves it. She's going to win this match and keep the title. Is my feeling as well.
Yeah, and well, Triple H too. I don't think he likes those kind of title reigns. The last decade or so, and maybe even longer than that, McMahon had title changes like every couple of weeks at one point. It was really terrible, and I think Triple H is trying to stay away from that, which is why we're probably picking most of the champions that we're picking right now.
Yeah, and Triple H likes to use a pay-per-view often to go make a tide-turning change with the direction of creative, and it comes to an end of a chapter at that point. And if there's any sort of critique I could have for Paul Levesque, it would be a little bit too predictable at times, but
and his draft sucks. Quality.
Yeah, they got to improve that. Make trades live, like do something like an actual draft. Don't just sputter through the show.
It was stupid, but anyway, we already talked about that.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Let's go with the World Heavyweight Championship match. Champion Damian Priest against Mr. Yeet, Jey Uso.
Same thing. Damian Priest is not a transitional champion. I think he'll drop it to McIntyre in Scotland. I think you think that as well. So I think Priest beats Jey Uso. This is just another way. And it's a big match for both of these guys. It's Damian Priest's first championship defense. And Jey Uso just came off of a really rough spot in WrestleMania, probably the most criticized match of the entire weekend, I would suggest. One of them anyway.
Yes.
So
I'd agree.
This is an important match for both of these guys. If they don't show, Damian Priest could be a Miz, and he doesn't get another world championship till 11 or 12 years later, and it's only for a day. So this is very important, even though I think Priest, the way he's carried himself, has been impressive, but I think he wins and beats Jey Uso. I certainly don't think Jey Uso is getting that world championship.
Yeah, I agree with you too, and I also say that this match is underneath the microscope of many in terms of the higher ups at WWE. This is their chance to shine. Whatever reason Jay and Jimmy want to say in regards to their WrestleMania match, highly disappointing. I understand it's live TV, things happen, but that's going to stick with them for a little bit. Here's a chance for redemption. Two guys that aren't usually in this spot are in it together. So sort of fresh, it's new. Hopefully they do some cool stuff. And you know what? I do like Damian Priest. I think there's something to him. He's kind of a cool badass in ways, but I'd like to see him away from the Judgment Day and sort of doing things like he was sort of doing in NXT as well. So, but that's the direction I'm going with that choice myself. So we'll carry on to a non-title match here. We got Randy Orton and Kevin Owens against the Bloodline with Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga.
You typically do not have someone debut and lose their first match. Tama is going to get a victory with his cousin Solo, and the new Bloodline is going to affirm their dominance or somewhat of dominance over SmackDown, just so everyone thinks that there's still a thing that we should care a lot about. So also Orton and KO can stand to lose. So I'm picking the Bloodline.
I'm with you. I'm picking the Bloodline too, and I believe we have a good chance of seeing Jacob Fatu finally. If I had to guess. So and he's going to be a game changer. People are going to be caught off guard by how good that guy is. It's my expectations, honestly. Nowhere near like what I personally have felt watching Ospreay, but that guy, that size, and the stuff that I see that he's capable of doing, I mean, even if he saves it just for pay-per-views mainly, I mean, he's going to impress people. So it should be a very impressive entrance into WWE for that man as soon as it happens. But yeah, I'm with you. Bloodline as well. And we move on. So we got the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, champions against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill for the WWE's Women's Tag Team Championship match. you want me to lead off on this one, or you got it?
I don't. It doesn't matter. I think we both took Miss Belair and Miss Cargill, I would assume.
That's it. Absolutely. And that's, it's that. This is what the people in France paid for. This is the moment they're going to get. Jade Cargill's first championship in WWE with Bianca Belair, of all people.
Is she really, wait, hold on. Is she really big in France? You think that's what's drawing all the assets to the seats?
No, by no means. But this is this basically is the Band-Aid of overly predictable nature of the card here.
Oh my God, this is so predictable. It's terrible.
They see a title change at least.
Oui, Jean-Jacques Cargill. Oui, mon chéri. Oh, yeah. That's my French body.
That's pretty good.
Oui, the Jacques Cargill, Jean-Jacques Cargill. Ooh, Bianca Belair. Ooh. Both of their names have a nice little French vibe to it, the way I said it. I think this is oui. These cards predictable and stupid. Oui.
Paul Levesque, he's not a genius.
This is a shitty house card. I saw these cards at the PLE Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I don't know. Did I get Italian there? I don't know. Oui.
You got very Italian.
Yeah. Whatever. European.
You're like, meet the ball. Is that Italian?
Hey. But yeah.
So there you go. They spent their euros happily to see Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair win this match. And then here we go to the actual undisputed WWE Championship. Cody Rhodes against one of the greatest that ever do it, AJ Styles. Should be a great match. But I have no doubt that Cody Rhodes wins this match. It'll be one that people can be like, okay, awesome match. And it just adds to Cody's story and legacy.
Well, again, this is one of those things, and they've done this with AJ a few times. They did it with Roman when Roman first, I think he beat Triple H. So it was his first WrestleMania he won. And if I'm not mistaken, AJ Styles fought Roman at Backlash there as well. AJ is a good guy to go in there and give a champion a first real legitimate great match. And we're hoping it can do it. But again, this is an important match for both Cody and AJ as well. It's, again, I always hearken back to, and we see it a lot. I hearken back, though, to one specifically when Dolph Ziggler was fed to Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam. And it wound up being a terrible, terrible match. And Dean Ambrose never saw the World Championship again. Because you have a bad match with Nick Nemeth, a.k.a. FKA Dolph Ziggler, something's wrong there. And they really shit the bed, that particular thing. So Cody's going to need to have a really good match with AJ. And I hope they tell a really good story. They're doing the babyface. I'm interested to see if LA Knight plays a role. You guys check it out. We are of the opinion that LA Knight should turn heel. And something to point out that I didn't point out last time, Vlad. When LA Knight was having his rise to fame about a year ago, maybe a little bit less than a year ago, back in the summertime last year, he was doing some one or two word answers describing all of the professional wrestlers in WWE. And Cody, he said no comment. He said, I'm going to hold that one close to the vest. So I think there was a plan to have these two go head to head. And so we'll see what happens. But there's no way Cody loses to AJ Styles. AJ Styles is not red hot enough, as great as he is. But it's an important match for Cody. And also it's an important match for AJ Styles. Because, when we talk about the greatest wrestlers in the world right now, when was the last time AJ Styles was in that conversation? So this is a point for him where he's going to get the main spot, the headliner, the main event. AJ's going to have to show everybody he is still phenomenal. He is still the same guy he was 5 years ago. And so I think this is an important match for the two men's world championship matches. I think they're both extraordinarily important for all four contenders.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm with you on this, man. So,
does LA Knight get involved, you think?
I don't know if they're going to do that quickly, honestly. This can be something after SummerSlam, because then you're sort of forced to go job out LA Knight, because they're not going to have Cody lose to him right now.
I could see LA Knight beating him in SummerSlam. No? That's too short of a title reign.
It depends on where they go with this whole thing with The Rock. Is there titles involved or they're not? they left the door open, which was a wise move. So we'll see. But right at this moment, I'm not comfortable saying that that'll happen that quickly. But he was drafted to SmackDown, right?
LA Knight, yeah.
LA Knight.
Absolutely.
And Cody is there. So
no, for sure.
So I think they're leaving the door open for this. So
they don't have any top heels right now on SmackDown. Who's your top heel on SmackDown right now? Solo Sikoa? Is that the guy? I mean, I'm sorry, Solo Sikoa is not there yet, as great as he is. And I got to be honest with you, when Jacob Fatu comes out, he might even upstage Solo because he's just as big. He's much more impressive in the ring. And I got to be honest with you, I think one of the reasons that is because when you have to sharpen your teeth, or what do they call when they what your teeth? Whatever.
Grind.
No, and you something your teeth on the independents. Like when you are on the independents, you learn so much more and many more different things than you do in WWE. Solo came up through the WWE system. He didn't really work on the indies much. Jacob Fatu has. So he's a little bit more progressed in the ring, and probably I haven't heard him cut any promos, but he's probably better on a promo than Solo is at this point too. I know Tama Tonga damn sure is. So I don't even, when you bring those other two guys in, I would argue that Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu both are overall better professional wrestlers than Solo Sikoa at this point in time. I would say that. So they need another top heel when Roman is out, and especially if Roman's going to come back as a babyface. Who's your top heel on SmackDown right now? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, me too. None. I can't even think. Like
top guy, a main eventer.
Yeah. McIntyre's on Raw. I mean, they're going to have to either turn Orton or Owens then heel.
Or LA Knight.
Or LA Knight.
I think LA Knight would be the most obvious choice. And also, LA Knight he's still popular, but he's getting a little stale. I think it's the perfect time to turn him heel. And then you could start having him have a lot of fun with Cody. Like we said, most of us would think, though, at the end of the day, LA Knight is going to probably start getting cheered more so than Cody.
Yeah, he's going to go. He will get those cheers from those of us, such as you and I, that adore the heel most of the times, especially if they're witty and they're upstaging the baby face, and especially if it's Cody of all people.
Yeah. So, but again, I think that pretty much covers the pay-per-view. What are your final thoughts before we get into AEW's night last night?
And you know what? I will admit this about WWE myself. Since WrestleMania is probably the least I've watched of them. I haven't really been drawn into anything. Checking in like on social media and paying attention to wins and losses and seeing it, but actually making the time and watching, it sort of has slowed down. I want to get past this draft and even most importantly, past this pay-per-view, and let's see where the show goes from here. So it almost seems like wrestling purgatory in ways. So I hope it's a good one, but that's where I'm at with this right now.
Yeah, the only really good storyline going on right now is Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, and Punk can't even wrestle well yet. That's literally the best storyline since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Like Drew McIntyre is still killing it. The whole thing with Sheamus last week, had a great segment with CM Punk again this week. Those guys are magic together, by the way.
Yeah.
Punk, of course, usually does his cliche bullshit, like, I'm the best on this microphone, in this ring, and even our commentary. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yes.
2 out of 3. Best on the microphone, best even at commentary, no one could touch him. But in the ring, he looked nice, though. No, I didn't mean any, I said that really homoerotically. Ooh. Maybe him and AJ, huh? Anyway. Styles, by the way. No, but Punk looked like his arms looked a little bit bigger. He had a nice tan going there. So Punk looked pretty good. Usually you see him, looks like a meth head.
And I did see clips of that, and I got to tell you, he did look like happy and healthy. And then it just something that we aren't accustomed to seeing.
He was real happy before. He was happy and healthy all the way up until Hangman said that about workers' rights. That's when things turned. But we don't want to go there. Come on. We talked about how many hours? We're done with it. We'll see how happy and healthy he is after he wrestles more than once on TV.
Man, just such negativity.
It's not negative, but you're trying to make
positive.
it sound like you're trying to make it sound like everyone. Like, I saw somebody post this about CM Punk. CM Punk is a top star in WWE. That's what someone said. He's had one television show. He looked bad in it, and he got hurt in it. He had one televised match. So let's see what he does when he comes back healthy. That's what I want to see. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to do everything he can to stay healthy. He's in a good place, absolutely. He's a corporate arse kisser, just like Drew McIntyre said. He's a good little superstar, just like Drew McIntyre was alluding to. Drew McIntyre is the man, and he's been carrying this brand since WrestleMania.
He's working you, bro. They're friends. These guys are totally ribbing us at this point.
I'm sure they're doing fine.
Yeah, like they're all like, what do you want to say tonight? Yeah, that works. And then, all right, you say this.
Well, the funny thing is everything that Drew McIntyre has said to Punk, I think most people that are not fans of Punk would want to say to him. Like, he's speaking for the people who don't like Punk. Either way you look at it. And he's done a good job with it. And it's been the right now, it's easily the best storyline in WWE currently. I mean, do we really care about this three-way that was kind of shoehorned together with the women? Do we, do we really? Jade and Bianca is going to be impressive, having two ridiculously athletic, big, charismatic black women winning a championship, and they're going to be two of the faces of the company. You love to see that in WWE. You love to see it anywhere, but in WWE particularly, Bianca and Jade are being treated like the two probable biggest stars outside of maybe Rhea Ripley. So that's going to be exciting. So I like that to a certain extent, even though I can't see the match being great. But am I blowing my skirt up about AJ and Cody? No. Especially because we're both baby faces now, which I thought AJ was a heel. Turned heel 3 weeks ago.
Right.
The bloodline thing. Not blowing my skirt up. I'm sorry. It's just not. Like, we haven't seen Randy Orton and Kevin Owens fight the bloodline enough the last 6 months. Kevin Owens the last 3 years. Orton, too. Before he got hurt, he was messing with the bloodline. Like, this isn't anything new. I think they really are blowing an opportunity, but you are getting a situation where you're getting Solo seemingly taking the reins. But we both, I think, he's taking the orders from the new tribal chief, which is The Rock.
Yeah, and then we also mentioned in the last show that Drew McIntyre re-upped with WWE. That's great news.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an absolute stud, man. It's like he can be a world champ and nobody will blink an eye. I mean, he totally looks the part, plays the part. He's really progressed with his career, like, in a great way. So this is awesome to see, and I'm glad he stayed there.
Oh, yeah. I don't think he would be doing the cool things he's going to be doing. But you said a quote. He was never leaving. It was never even going to be a situation. He just had to make sure he was getting certain things taken care of for his family. This is what he said. I'm paraphrasing on his quote. So, look, Drew McIntyre, already a 3-time world champion. You know, the guy has it, and he was already a main event type guy. I'd put him on the same level as like a Bobby Lashley was, what have you. But ever since he turned into this almost honorable heel and this just great character, wise ass on social media, ever since he did that, it seems like he got up to that next level where, to your point, yeah, he's one of the top guns in that. And he's a great worker. The guy's 6'5", 280, 285, and the guy works his ass off. Another one, he went on the indies and became a better wrestler once he found who he was on the independent scene. Same thing with Cody. Same thing with AJ Styles. A lot of these, I always find that the wrestlers who sharpen their teeth on the independent scenes, like I said before, I think that they are just overall better wrestlers 99% of the time. You know, Obviously, you have your Solo Sikoas, but you also have your Baron Corbins and your Austin Theories. And you also have, how many terrible people came up? You have your Apollo Cruzes that never panned out. A lot of people from NXT that they learned in NXT, they come up to the main roster and they can't connect to the people because, and you know what's interesting, Vladi? I find it's usually the men that have the problem. The women usually come up and they're ready for TV. The women have had much more success with being the homegrown talent opposed to the men. I feel like a lot of the men that were homegrown from NXT aren't nearly as good as the guys that they brought in from the indies. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but I think you got to look a little bit more specifically. Like, you used Apollo Crews. He was in the indies before NXT. There was like that crowd of like indie guys that came in around the time of Kevin Owens, or Kevin Steen, if you will, and Generico. And so there were guys that did go through the indie scene and then came to NXT. Now, from there, like, did they flourish in NXT and got to the main roster and then Vince swatted them down like only Vince could?
Well, I have a question. How long was Apollo Crews on the indies?
I would have to look it up. I mean, I'm not as...
Well, it's a bit, yeah, because, you look at Owens and Sami Zayn, they were on the indies for over a decade. If Apollo Crews is only on the indies for 3 or 4 years, that's not really... a lot of people start at least somewhere on the indies before they make the jump to WWE. I'm talking about people that really sharpen their teeth.
If you look at it, WWE is very guilty of just going and finding athletes that can do things, and then they're bringing them in. So those are people that don't even go to the indies. That's what I'm saying. Like, at least Apollo Crews was there and had spent some time, even if it's not 10 years. I'm sure it's not 10 years because of his age, but he was like 8 years old in the indies. But like, still, the fact that he went and had that experience is different. And then you got to look at the full thing, man. Like, Vince created a lot of issues and destroyed a lot of careers while making certain select few stars incredibly wealthy and incredibly famous. And you have a litany of wrestlers. I mean, for every guy that that you can mention, okay, I can't say we're going to go one for one, but you did have the Roman Reigns, who didn't necessarily have to go through the indie scene himself, but he had the lineage and was able to learn the business and sort of knew it, and it's in his literal blood, But
and he was working. Who was he working with? 2 guys that were on the indies for 7, 8, 9 years between Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, and John Moxley, Dean Ambrose. So he was with 2 guys who really did grind their teeth, sharpen their teeth on the internet on the independent. So I'm with you. But by the way, how long did it take Roman? With the greatest minds and people around him. You're talking about a guy who works with Brock Lesnar. He worked with Seth Rollins. He worked with Triple H. He has Paul Heyman in his corner. Roman was a disaster of a babyface the first 5 or 6 years. He was getting booed more than John Cena got booed. But they put him on there. But he did have to go through a lot of growing pains and just had to find his voice. He did it with Paul Heyman, and then he became a game changer. But prior to that, Roman sucked. Let's be honest. He wasn't entertaining. It wasn't his fault, to a certain extent. He didn't have the gumption to say, no, I don't want to do this stupid shit. Dog food and succotash,
He didn't have the position in the company or Vince's liking to that point to go and say no. But then when he was able to become himself with Paul Heyman, everything changed.
So yeah, but that's all we got for WWE and Backlash. Not a lot else going on, like you said, Vladi. So let's move over to, in my view, what has been the better product the last 3 weeks: All Elite Wrestling and the continuing saga of the EVPs, your absolute favorite tag team of all time, continuing their reign of terror as after taking out the owner and president, Tony Khan, last week, in his own hometown, Kenny Omega announces that he is going to be coming back as soon as he can, and how dangerous it will be for him to wrestle. Really did a great job with putting that over. I thought he cut a good promo. But the EVPs, first Kazuchika Okada interrupts Kenny, and everyone knows the legendary battles that they had. To me, the greatest match I ever saw was Kenny Omega and Okada in June of 2018. And as Okada is distracting, in comes Jungle Jerkoff, Jack Perry, hacks Kenny from behind. The Bucks come out like they're going to try to calm him down, which I don't think anyone bought for a second. They give Kenny an EVP trigger, and they beat him down, and then he has to get carted off. But luckily, our boys FTR came to the original rescue. We thought FTR was going to be done with the Bucks. No. The blood feud is here. And so now you have FTR trying to come to the aid of Kenny Omega. Well, I guess I'll be playing the part of CM Punk in this feud.
100%.
And now you have but then the Bucks attack them once again, including Matt Jackson, who he and Kenny, if you know their story, very, very close. And Matt Jackson said, sorry, Kenny, we got to change the world. And Kenny, I thought, did a great job selling this. And then they drop him right on his stomach one more time. And the Elite stand tall for the second straight week. And they are now in the midst of one hell of a storyline, whether you like it or not. It's definitely, I think, going to stir a lot of emotion, and it's one of the best stories they've had in a while. But that's me. Your thoughts on your favorite EVPs and this episode of Dynamite?
The episode of Dynamite, my thoughts on the EVPs, I don't know if they'd be mutually, exclusive, if you will, but like basically, when you started the show showing Tony Khan in front of the Jaguars, from the Jaguars office in Jacksonville, and then all of a sudden things get glitchy, and then the EVPs take over, literally take over in the production truck, and they are setting the tone for the entire show, obviously. And you'd have to see the writing on the wall in terms of Kenny being there and something monumental happening, right? So, as we got to that segment with Kenny, I got to say, that probably was my favorite Kenny Omega promo in AEW. And really, what it came down to, there was a different voice there, right? Like, I understand he had the glasses, kind of like the cleaner, but it wasn't quite the cleaner. To me, he looked the part, man. He looked like the top guy, honestly. The suit, the glasses, the bass in his voice, where he was getting serious. It was just one of those better works on the mic for me. And I was like, man, this is good stuff. And I didn't realize immediately that Okada would come out, but of course, there you go. Kenny sets the table in terms of looking down the road in a few months when I'm better. After he, went through the pain to tell you about his diverticulitis and explain what he went through, what he's facing, how he could actually die from it, and if anybody knows anything about it, which most wrestling fans kind of lived vicariously through Brock Lesnar when we heard about this and understand how serious it is, now we're basically shining this light on Kenny. And here he is. And one of the coolest parts of that promo was him looking into the camera and explaining, you know what? You forgot that I also am an EVP. So here he has the same power, can be that guy who basically helps Tony Khan, of all people, who needs it more than anybody else on the planet at this point, right? So Kenny's a good, and if not probably the best figure to put in front of Tony Khan and allow him to go and assemble his army against the EVP and the Elite, right? And when Okada came out, Kenny goes and challenges him in the future, and, you could almost smell and sense that little scapegoat somewhere in the building, and then there he was, gets the advantage on Omega, then Okada and Jack Perry go and really, do some damage to Omega, of course.
Omega did a good job, though. He looked in great shape when he did work a little bit with Perry, gave him that dragon suplex and all that. So Kenny had a little bit of fire to him, too, which you also like to see.
It wasn't. I like. Let's put it this way. I know he was sick, but like you compare this versus the promo he did with Jericho. Like it almost felt like and I'm not even disparaging Kenny. It was just I would have been like, ugh, what is this too? You know what I mean? Like, what am I dealing with? But here he was the man, and I never really sensed that completely like that. Usually there's callous there. Usually it's the Bucks, whatever. No, this time it was him, and he was basically sticking his neck out and letting the EVPs other than him know, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be around too, and I'm going to call some shots. So I do really admire this aspect of it for sure. It was a nice sort of bonus to see FTR come out there and come to his aid, because all right, that sort of writes itself. And you sort of half jokingly said he plays the part of CM Punk. Yeah, absolutely. This is where they're going with this. And I don't know if Kenny was laying like little building blocks in his Twitch broadcast or what, but it was like he's been sort of kind of going against the Bucks on certain things and shoot manners, and then now especially kayfabe. So this is really refreshing, and putting FTR with him, that's a pretty good threesome that you got going. And I mean, I don't know who else you might want to consider to go in a line with Kenny and or them. It's a little bit early. I hope it's something more. Honestly, I'll say it. I hope it's something more than Kota Ibushi. I'd like to see something, I don't know. I don't want to say like a Scott Norton type, like from NWO, but some badass that can just back them up until Kenny's fully, healed, along with FTR. Wardlow, I guess, might be that guy. Who knows? But
maybe Hangman does come back as a babyface. I was always under the impression eventually he's going to side with the Bucks in this situation, but maybe Hangman comes back and is that he would make the most sense, and then maybe he turns on Kenny when Kenny comes back. I don't know. I'm not sure, but they have options. And what's cool is, which we haven't seen about an AEW storyline in a while, they have some options and have us guessing of where they're going. And to your point, FTR being a part of this is so necessary. We all thought they was going to be the Motor City Machine Guns or whatever the hell they're called.
Yep.
Young Bucks Midwest, Young Bucks East. We all thought it was going to be those guys. And no disrespect, they both had phenomenal single careers in TNA. So God bless both of those guys.
Yeah.
But, that's who they came up with the Bucks. There's always going to be those comparisons. They have a big rivalry with the Bucks. So we were under the impression they were going to bring in the Guns, and they would be the ones that they go after the Bucks first. No. We're getting the blood feud with FTR, exactly what we wanted, what we were begging for. And FTR is still in. Now, look, I've seen Tony fuck up things before when it looks like they were going in the right direction, and nope. So he might still. But at least early, we were wrong when we were killing Tony. Oh, FTR is not going to be around anymore. Pleasantly surprising, Vladi Dottie, surprising me. And I was really excited to see how this storyline is progressing. And I actually felt for Kenny. A fan of me was there for a second. Because you know me, I've always had great affinity for Kenny Omega since 2016.
Yeah.
So from a guy that's been following him that long, I know there's going to be some people on the internet. Well, I found him when he was in DDT. When I guess he got the great Harpo finger fuck moniker from Mr. Cornette with that hair. But the fact is, though, is I love Kenny, and I think when he's right, he's one of the best, if not the top 3 or 4 wrestlers on the planet. And I just like, too, they're not wasting time. Okada Omega, get it done right now. Fuck it. And maybe, hopefully, Kenny can be back for All In. And that's a match you have. Okada Omega at All In. Mm. And maybe I'm not sure who Ospreay's going to be with yet, but I mean, they need to start playing their major chips. Stop the bullshit with the trios matches that don't mean anything.
Yeah.
But overall, I really love this spot. I like the angle, and I love how Dynamite went right into Rampage again. When Dynamite goes right into Rampage, I was just going to
say that.
It makes me watch Rampage. I don't usually go out of my way to watch Rampage. If you put it on the 3rd hour and maybe make it a little different, they have a little bit more adult themes and things of that nature, maybe more blood. This could be a big thing, and you're going to get more eyes on your product. And look, you're doing it anyway. Just shoot it live. Just do it live. And then you don't have to worry.
Exactly.
and you're done. So hopefully that's because it's happened. I think the second or third time it's happened recently. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, they should film it after Dynamite's over, and then if they want to replay it late on Friday night, and whoever didn't see it or whatever forgot to record it, at least it's there, right? But like, I loved how the show was ending on Dynamite, and they carried it over into Rampage, and I actually stuck with Rampage for probably another 10 minutes or whatever it was. So,
I watched all
yeah,
of it. I watched all of it. Rampage was pretty good, actually. Well, it was all right.
Okay.
Still had that Rampage vibe to it.
But yeah, it's good. Like, if they did make it a little bit more adult or whatever it might be, I mean, that's a good way to sort of expand the audience a little bit, especially at that time slot. It could be really something cool. And then also when Kenny got overturned with that while he was on the the cart or for the ambulance,
the gurney,
yeah. When Matthew Jackson, I should say, went and turned him over, the way they shot it, and Dax was in the shot, like, concerned about Kenny. I'm like, okay, I get sense this isn't like some, throwaway bullshit. Like, they're going to actually look to align that tag team with Omega. So that was done on purpose, in my opinion, as well. So that's a positive step for this storyline. In the same breath, I'll say this. I still look at the Bucks and Jack and Okada out there, and I'm like, okay, all right, they're lucky they have power. Like, you're just still not like, holy shit, look at that group of dudes. Like, it's like, oh, they just came out of Hollister.
This nice Asian man taking these three boys out shopping.
Yeah, basically what it seems.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we have Kazuchika Okada. He's going to be wrestling in a singles match and in a trios match, all hailing from Southern California. Combined weight, 87 pounds. Matthew, Nicholas Jackson, and Jungle Jack Perry. Combined weight of 87 pounds. Because they're so small.
I got that.
Tiny.
They're like children. And you know what? It's sort of one of the things I thought of too was when they sent the patriarchy out there to go after Swerve. All of a sudden, you have them sort of like Christian and family sort of doing the EVP's work, and you have Kill Switch out there. And mark my words, eventually, those two that are getting mistreated are going to be part of the reason the EVPs get destroyed. Mark my words.
I don't know if Luchasaurus or Kill Switch is going to have a big part of that.
He'll link up with the Scapegoat when the Scapegoat realizes the EVPs have been using him.
Oh yeah, you're right, because Jack Perry has been a little bit of the errand boy.
Right. Yeah. And it's not going to happen this month, but say a year from now, year and a half, it's like they're already working them back together. You can't keep Jurassic Express apart, man.
Not after he copyrighted him. Jack Perry got the shit copyrighted.
Yeah. Exactly. He's the guy. You got to use it. Put it to work. He's got to sell shirts.
He didn't get it copyrighted not to use it,
Right.
But again, I love where this storyline is going, and it's a good one. And I think there's a lot of really good storylines happening in AEW. And I don't know if the ratings are going to reflect it right early, but there's a lot of, we've been bitching and crying all last year. Where are the storylines? Where are the build? And they've been doing it really well since the beginning of the year. And right now you see a couple storylines finally being pushed. Another one, now you have Adam Copeland and Malachi Black in the House of Black, and that's interesting. Finally, Malachi Black is doing something that's worth any while whatsoever. What did you think of that, where Malachi Black went after the match between Copeland and Buddy Murphy? Copeland was about to hit him with a chair, and then Malachi Black got in there, and instead of stopping him, he basically told him to do it. And it's messing with Copeland's head. This is going to lead to Adam Copeland turning heel, though, eventually.
You're probably right on that.
They all turn heel.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I don't know. Like, of course, it was going to be Buddy Matthews out of the three. I was like, it's a shocker. It's on Malachi Black coming out there and wrestling Copeland, of course. I thought the crowd was sort of mild during the match. It was a slow-paced match, even for me. And then all of a sudden, Buddy's wrestling with internal bleeding. He's becoming like the sympathetic heel. He took the Avalanche Impaler. Then what I did like is that Buddy Matthews hit the jackhammer in this match the same week that Goldberg called AEW cheesy. Tony Khan, that wasn't lost on me, pal.
Why isn't Tony Khan tweeting at Bill Goldberg? If it was Triple H, we'd have called him a bald asshole or called him Harvey Weinstein.
So then after, of course, Copeland wins the match. He goes to get chairs to go get revenge on Buddy Matthews. And I loved it. Shivani goes and yells out, "The mist in Adam Copeland's eyes has made him crazy." I'm like, oh, thanks, Shivani. Thanks for explaining it. I've never seen him do a concerto before.
Shivani could give you the gospel and you'd still be like, this guy's a fucking creep.
Oh, dude, I got more lines from him.
I like Shivani, so I'm not listening.
During the Jericho Shibata match, after they sat down and hit each other with those canes, Shivani goes, "This is entertaining as hell, guys." That's what he had to add to that.
He's just being a fan of it. What's the problem with that? Why do you hate that so much?
He just states the obvious. He is talking to every fan as if they're a child, and this is a niche crowd who understands these things.
I mean, at least he knows the names of fucking moves. We got Michael Cole over on WWE. The voice of WWE is an embarrassment. He's still an amateur, so I don't know. I think Shivani's a lot better than Michael Cole, so I think Shivani's a lot better than Jim Ross at this point in time. I like Shivani. I don't think Shivani's bad at all. I think you just hate Shivani, to be honest with you. Ski of own.
When Kill Switch ripped out Swerve's braid, Shivani goes, "That's savage." And then the crowd chanted, "Eat it, eat it." And I was like, wow, this is devastating punishment for the same guy that was just in a death match with Hangman Page. They ripped out his hair. That's savage.
I don't know what the problem is there either. I mean, they ripped it from the root was, I think, the idea of that.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I don't see the problems with either of those, but I don't hate Shivani.
Yeah. I do.
I know you do.
Yeah.
But I hate Michael Cole, so there you go.
Yeah, it's fine. Hate him. I don't care. But Shivani's the fucking worst, man.
No, Shivani's better than Michael Cole.
The fact that Shivani's on Collision as well and works his way on a Rampage, can he just take a break? Just remove himself from a show.
I'd rather take Shivani than Pat McAfee, too. Pat McAfee is a caricature of himself, and he's a clown.
I'll take McAfee over Shivani easily.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would, because you just...
So what?
I have no idea.
Right, exactly. What were you alluding to within your head?
You like blondes. Play football.
Blondes that play football?
Yeah, I don't like Pat McAfee. You like Pat McAfee when he jumps up on the fucking table and starts yeeting? Or when he did that stupid thing with Matt Nakamura's fucking guitar? You thought that was entertaining and cool?
Yeah, I think he's an entertaining guy, man. I think he's high energy.
So you think when he jumps up on a table and acts like a fucking clown, that's better than Shivani?
If you want to go 1-for-1 with Shivani and McAfee, well, I'll start going through Dynamite's collisions and I'll just get the transcripts of this idiot on the microphone who just and I feel bad for Excalibur and Taz half the time.
But you don't like it. That's because, but it's a stylistic thing. You don't like it style. It's not because he's not good at his job. You think he overstates the obvious. Sometimes you need to be, the obvious needs to be overstated because sometimes AEW doesn't tell you the stories the correct way with the wrestlers. So the guys that put over. In fact, Excalibur is the guy who botched when when Will Ospreay was going for the Tiger Driver 91, I think a week ago. I think he was
Absolutely.
and he was screwing it up. He's saying, "Oh, he's going for the Stormbreaker," and it was clearly wasn't. Shania doesn't screw up like that. That's a Michael Cole thing. Bad job, Excalibur.
I'm a Taz guy.
I like Taz too. And one of my
What do you think they're doing with him?
Moments
Did
in
you
the
see
Valley.
that he was sort of cut like becoming heelish when during the Jericho match? It was pretty interesting. Like they're starting to fire him up a bit.
He was like putting Jericho over.
Oh, he was pissed off that Jericho has the belt.
Oh, okay.
He was like saying, Hook, basically just they were showing where Jericho put his nameplate on the belt, and that pissed off Taz. He didn't play it impartial at all. Like he was getting pissed off. So I'm wondering, I'm wondering if they maybe going to go, rekindle the idea of maybe giving him another crew again.
I wouldn't think so, but I think Hook might need a manager. That's what I will say.
Definitely, 100%, man.
He gets a promo like he's on NXT.
Chips.
Like he's on NXT.
No,
it's
not even.
Actually,
that.
not even
No,
that.
not
He doesn't even put that. He doesn't
No.
even put that. He doesn't even put that much effort into it. NXT, it's like they go to William Shatner's overacting school.
What do you mean, North American title?
But yeah, but I liked where they're going with Edge and the House of Black again. Malachi Black and Edge for the TNT Championship should be a great match at Double or Nothing. And what else we had going on? Orange Cassidy getting counseled by Don Callis of all people, Vladi Dottie. That must have made your dick itch. You're probably after the Bucks. After the Bucks, I think Cassidy would be there as your least liked wrestler in the company. I would say. Yeah,
at
least prominent.
Sure.
At least prominent. I'm sure there's a couple that you're whatever, but
he's up there. But the thing is, when I see this, I know Callis is turning on him, and it's going to be Trent and the Don Callis family. And what's irritating to me is I adore that faction. Like with Ospreay, when I thought he was going to come over as a heel, especially, I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be something to work with. And now I'm gonna see Takeshita job to Moxley. Hobbs is hurt. I'm going to see Trent in there with Takeshita. And then what else? Fletcher's leaving and Ospreay's leaving. So kind of weird time for Callis and what's going on there.
I don't know. I mean, I know Fletcher looked like he was Callis's whatever. I'm not sure if Fletcher doesn't turn on Ospreay to make Ospreay more of a sympathetic character. But obviously all the signs are pointing to Fletcher turning on Callis and going with Ospreay. But I don't know.
I'd prefer Fletcher to stay, as you're indicating. I like that idea.
Yeah, I'd like him to turn on Ospreay, and that's how Ospreay gets that's how Ospreay gets all the babyface sympathy. So, that's where we want to go with that. So hopefully we'll see what happens with that. But I'm with you there with Don Callis, but it's decent storyline. It's something that we're actually the things are being done that makes sense. You know what I mean? So that's that's all we wanted with AEW the last couple of years, and we weren't getting it consistently, and now we are. And I think it needs to be recognized, especially after all. But they need to stop the bullshit. Tony needs to shut up.
Yeah.
And they need to just look. The storyline's going well, so it's hard to say that showing the Punk stuff was a back. They didn't need to, and if this storyline winds up being very successful, and it looks like it might be, this storyline is very successful. Everyone that defends him's like, "We told you it didn't backfire." It still backfired because what happened the following week? You dropped under 700,000, so it still backfired because people were pissed at you and didn't want to watch the show. And they didn't watch the last 2 episodes, which have been really good because you aired that stupid footage. You could have told this story without showing that footage. So you could sit there. If this storyline winds up being really good, I still don't want to hear that bullshit that showing the footage was a good idea. It wasn't. It was stupid. Let's not go crazy. They need to stop that bullshit and just do what they're supposed to do. And that's be a great alternative to WWE that tell good stories and have the best top tier wrestling on the planet. You know, just don't have your mid card women wrestle too often. You'll be in trouble then.
Let me ask you this: did you happen to see the Uncle Dave Meltzer quote about this angle?
No, I don't. I don't go out of my way to hear anything that he says. But what did he say? Obviously, we could talk about it. But what did he say?
Okay, yeah. Just because you and I realized, sort of like in the Department of Propaganda there for Tony. If they had done this, is quote unquote, if they had done this angle 2 years ago, it would have been a huge success. Right now, because AEW is considered uncool by a lot of people, when you're uncool, even when you do good stuff, it doesn't work nearly as well, especially when you're a deep number two. And that was on AEW, Dave Meltzer on AEW's angle involving Tony Khan, the Elite, and Kenny Omega. In some ways, I get what he's saying. It pains me to give him some credit, but this would have been gangbusters if they actually had all the parties in there with FTR and Punk and just seeing what we saw scratch the surface here on Dynamite most recently. If you had that real sort of hatred with each other, like that would have been great TV. But I'm happy with what I'm seeing already. I'm not shitting on it. So, I'm already on Team Omega for sure.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, I thought he sold so well last night, told a story about his gut and any kind of blunt force trauma to his gut. LA Knight comes in and gives him his finisher on his stomach. But I'm with you. I thought it was great. I just think I get what he's saying, but I mean, talk about master of the obvious. Well, no shit. They were actually getting over 1 million viewers. First of all, 2 years ago, it couldn't happen because Punk was hurt 2 years ago. When it actually happened after the first Brawl In, he wasn't cleared to wrestle till the following June. So even if they came back and did it in June, there you go. But that's not even a year ago at this point in time, Uncle Dave. First of all. Second of all, he's right in the effect that you're not getting short-term wins in terms of ratings and in terms of pop. The old thing that AEW isn't cool. Well, it's not cool because of stupid shit that Tony Khan has said and showing that footage. And it's not cool because that had over a year of not telling good stories. It's not cool because Rampage and Collision have become albatrosses of television shows. That's why it's not cool. They have their own stuff to. It's not because of people just magically had this thing like, oh, we don't think it's cool anymore, so we're not going to like it. It's their own fault why it's not cool.
Right.
And you don't. And also the other thing that no one ever brings up, and except for us, when Tony Khan's competition was Vince McMahon as a booker, Tony Khan looked a lot better than he does now that you have somebody competent that knows what they're doing in WWE of Triple H. Triple H has made WWE cool again. So if WWE is cool and you struggle to tell any decent stories for a year or year and a half, that's why that there is what it is. But you got to start somewhere. Again, we always talked about this. It doesn't happen overnight. Steve Austin said, Austin 316 means I just whipped your ass in June of 1996. They didn't beat Dynamite again until 1998. Okay? Things take time to build. So the question is, though, are they going to have a TV deal before this? And that's the big thing, Vladi. And I'm sorry, I'm getting nervous. We're only, what are we, 6.5 months away? Almost 7 months away from this stuff being done. It's getting there. But those are some of the things I don't know. I think AEW has been so much better over the last 3 or 4 months than they were the previous 12. So I'm really all for AEW right now, and I hope they continue to just entertain me. And hopefully they get a TV contract. Hopefully it's not too little too late, which maybe Meltzer's kind of hinting at. But fuck him otherwise. But I will say one thing, Vladi. Meltzer's fair often, and he's not completely full of shit the way I think some people think of him. And I've killed Meltzer, but he's been fair with Tony when he's made mistakes too. So it's not. I think he was he's more of a Bucks propagandist than he is a Tony Khan propagandist.
Yeah, it's very fair to say, actually.
Yeah. He's killed Tony. He has killed Tony. He never kills the Bucks.
Yeah. Yeah, he handles them with kick gloves. That's for sure. But yeah, I get where he's coming from, and honestly, if they had the ability to go use the real players in this disagreement and this incredible behind the scenes soap opera, would have been great. But we're getting probably the second best thing. They'll work together, and you mentioning Hangman, that definitely seems like that would be an obvious sort of choice and to bring back into this mix. And then you see the evolution of these guys as friendships and, their careers basically being intertwined.
This is why I think Hangman's coming back as a heel, though. Who does he hate more than anybody? Swerve. And who was calling out the Young Bucks last night? Swerve.
Yeah.
So I would doubt. So I think that tells me Hangman's going to be, his suspension's going to be lifted and he's going to be with the Elite.
Well, I felt like when the EVPs were saying, hey, we're going to go, we're going to send somebody out there, and what they were saying, I felt like they were alluding to Hangman versus Christian at first. They're like, oh, you're familiar with this guy. And this
Hangman versus Swerve. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So I thought maybe Hangman might be the guy, but then here came out Christian, and
which I was happy with. I love Christian. Let him back.
And I thought it was amusing how the crowd went to Christian's lap. They started chanting for him. I'm like, that's not quite the reaction we want to get at this moment, but they worked through it. But again,
that's good.
It's crowd for Christian.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Swerve gets the main event. Swerve and Christian get the main event for Double or Nothing. We'll have to see what else is going on. I think they would. I would suggest they probably will, depending on. Or you might go whatever the Elite is going to be doing. Are you going to have I know Kenny shouldn't be back by Double or Nothing.
No.
So I wonder how they're going to play it out. If they're going to defend their tag title.
It might be a tag title on, God help me, if it's a Jack Perry match.
Nobody wants to see a Jack Perry match.
Especially in the main event. And here's what I hope they don't do with Swerve is I hope they don't go and do the Hangman thing with Swerve. Like how Hangman had that title and it was almost like an afterthought. He wasn't necessarily main eventing. I kind of want to see Swerve really obtain some new heights here. And I just don't want to see him being betrayed almost like an afterthought.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Hangman definitely had the worst title reign of anybody. It wasn't even close.
Easy. Yeah.
I think Kenny, if you had to put a gun in my head, I think Kenny had the best reign. I know MJF was longer, but he had some struggles with that storyline. That storyline at the end was really just convoluted and did not land right. They didn't stick the landing at all.
Nope.
So you would have to say, and a lot of it was shoehorned. A lot of his matches were shoehorned toward the end. The whole Kenny Omega, like a 3-day
build,
was it 3 or 4 day build to Kenny Omega MJF. I mean, come on. It was just, those are the kind of things of why people didn't think it was cool.
Yeah.
So I would say just Kenny. Then I would say probably Moxley, then Jericho. As far as your best world champions, then MJF. I mean, I don't know. Samoa Joe only had it for a couple months, so maybe you would put Samoa Joe after Hangman, because that wasn't much of a title reign at all.
Yeah.
He didn't defend it a lot either. I think he only defended like 4 or 5 times. I love Joe, but that was not a good that really wasn't a very good title run. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Better than Bryan Danielson's.
Amazing, right? Amazing.
Better than Adam Cole's. Better than CM Punk's even. I forgot about his. One reign was 7 days, and the other one was 1 day. Not even. Oh, my goodness. Unbelievable. I have a question for you, Vladi.
Sure.
Do you think the biggest mistake last year was making Adam Cole and MJF the main event at All In instead of Punk and MJF? I have a feeling Punk would have been in much better spirits if he was main eventing that show. And quite frankly, the moneymaker would have been CM Punk and MJF. That would have been the better match. And I don't know if it would have helped long term, but it would have made a lot more business sense. And that maybe that. And look, CM Punk, we know he's got an ego the size of Texas. Not being the main event when he's the biggest star in the company probably pissed him off.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have been there. And he wouldn't have been there to confront Jack Perry. He wouldn't have been in Gorilla.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, it's like the butterfly effect there. If you had MJF versus CM Punk in some sort of like grudge match, that place would have been beyond electric, man. It would have been something. But they were so heavily invested into that devil angle at that point, and they thought Adam Cole was gonna, I don't know, like lift this company up out of the muck and everything else that was going on at that point. But my God, they misstepped that entirely. I think I would have rather seen MJF and Punk at that point for sure.
I mean, it was the bit. I thought, and if you remember, I think that's what we all thought it was going to be, and we were a little bit disappointed when Adam Cole was actually announced. I was like, because they had just wrestled. They had just wrestled once before, because you could have put it off to. They had another pay-per-view like a month later. You could have had them do it again. I really think that was one of the biggest booking mistakes of Tony Khan's career, was not putting CM Punk in the main event of All In. It was, the story writes itself. You could have had an entire 2.5 month build, and you could have unified the championship. And of course, CM Punk wouldn't have walked out with an AEW championship over his shoulder like he did it All In.
Yep.
It just that's the kind of thing that makes AEW not cool, because disappointing booking after disappointing booking after disappointing booking. And now people are seeing what they're doing right in WWE and realizing you could actually book things that make sense. So, they're doing it now. Let's keep it up. But, Meltzer can, he thinks everything is so simplistic with like, the guy doesn't, it's like he has no nuance to thinking, and he thinks he's so smart because he knows about TV ratings. And he always makes excuses. He's making an excuse why they didn't do well last week. Anytime AEW dips in ratings, there's always an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. Versus,
so what else happened on AEW Dynamite? A lot of other things happened, didn't they? Swerve called out the Elite, which we talked about, which is why we think Hangman's going to the Elite maybe now. What else we got? It was a great episode.
I think Hangman's going with Kenny, man.
Now with Swerve calling out the Young Bucks, man, I don't know.
We'll see.
And why? I know. And that's kind of a little bit of a thing we got going on here. I think we both think we're 100% right. I don't know if I'm 100% right. But with Swerve calling out the Young Bucks have reinforced my feeling that Hangman, if not initially, at least eventually, is going to turn on Kenny and he's going to side with the Bucks. If Swerve doesn't do that, then I'm thinking maybe you're right. But again, they suspended Hangman for a reason and they fired Kenny for a reason. There was a distinction there. I know you don't like the booking of that, but the reality is there was a distinction between the two. And with, again, you add Swerve to it. Why did Hangman get suspended? Because he attacked a referee for trying to count a pin for Swerve. Like, Hangman was obsessed with Swerve. So does he go away and not loses his obsession? Doesn't make for great wrestling. And is he going to be fighting? I don't know.
But this is where I'm a little bit hesitant on the idea, is like, because now, say if Hangman were to go defeat Swerve, now he's the world champion. And now he's like sort of one-upped Okada. And Okada's the guy for the Bucks.
I don't think Hangman's beating him for a championship. I just think he's going to be a heel. I never said that he.
Okay.
I do not think Hangman's winning a world championship anytime soon. No, that wasn't part of my thinking. I'm just saying he's going to turn heel with the Bucks.
Yeah, I don't.
Again, why would Swerve call them out like that then? That to me is big.
Well, he's the world champ. It's his company, if you will. And he's, sticking up for Tony Khan. I mean, in the future, what I'm looking at is, I'm thinking Will Ospreay's going for the world title at the next Wembley show, right? And
I don't know, because I think he's going to have this international championship. He's beating Roderick Strong. I think he might try to make that title kind of the way RVD made the TV title. So he might have that title for a little while. Because theoretically, All In's going to happen the next year as well. And then it's a little bit more of a journey for him to win the world title. A little bit more of a struggle, which we've seen plays out.
I see what you're saying. But again, it's like when he comes out, like 2 weeks ago when Dynamite was at Daly's place in Jacksonville, that crowd was dead often. But when he came out, they got to their feet. And it's just like they've caught lightning in a bottle with this guy. And I'd rather have 4 main events with that dude or whatever, how many years that he's under contract at Wembley, at that event, and for something prestigious like the world title. But that's just me, man. I don't know. I just, because then I'm thinking, okay, I wouldn't necessarily want Swerve to drop to, say, Ospreay in Wembley, but I would be more than happy to see Hangman lose, especially if that's weakening the EVP in position by, if it was Hangman versus Ospreay.
Hangman is not main eventing All In either. Hangman's not that big of a star. I mean, they know who he is now, so I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think Hangman's touching Will Ospreay at All In. I don't think that's even a remote possibility. I don't think Hangman's winning the world title either. In terms of Swerve and that's the thing. I don't know if the timing's right. Because, I mean, you're going to have him for another couple of years. You have him under contract for a few years. I don't know if there's a rush. I mean, he's just in the company for 6 months. He gets the world championship. I don't know. I don't know if I would agree with that.
What I want is the opposite of Bryan Danielson.
Well, Bryan Danielson.
I don't want to wait. People get injured. All that sort of shit. You and I argued about the Bucks and FTR all those years ago. We'll get to it. It's now. It's hot now. Do it now. That's just my feeling on it. But
yeah, but then you got to sacrifice Swerve, and he's a transitional champion. So he only has a title for 5 months. If you're trying, that's hard to do. If you're trying to say, okay, Swerve is not a transitional champion, you have him drop the title in less than 5 months.
Swerve would be losing to probably the greatest wrestler on the planet, though. Sorry.
Understood, but I mean, again, why would you give Ospreay this championship? They might do it because whatever, but why would you give him the international championship at Double or Nothing? Is he just going to do title for title? I mean, again, you're only talking 2.5 months later, 3.5, not even 3 months later. You're doing All In. I don't know. I don't know why you're going to give him every champion. You're going to give him a championship before he wins the big one. I don't think it's the right time for Ospreay for All In this year. I really don't. I don't think I would rather a long-term story with him struggling. I really would. And then having that bigger moment, which means a little bit more, same as it did with Cody, to be quite frank. Which is interesting because we wanted them to pull the trigger on Cody there. But at that point in time, Cody was there a year. And he had at least a storyline more momentum. And he was a sympathetic character. And you know what? Look how great that moment was this past WrestleMania 40. And if they did, and so I think the moment could be bigger if they do All In with a little bit of a struggle. They do All In 2025 for Mr. Ospreay, but who knows, man? I mean, they could pull the trigger on him. I get what you're saying. You want him to be the star of the company, but he wins the title, and you're gonna have him lose another 6 months, 8 months, and then who's gonna main event the next All In? I mean, you got options here. So, and again, I don't want to see Swerve lose a title in 5 months. I really don't. That's something that's a little funky.
I know, I get it. I mean, I do like Swerve and all that, but he's Osprey's the one guy that I would have beat him, honestly. Like, I just wouldn't keep it from him.
And you're gonna do
He's
baby.
the guy that goes.
I don't like the baby face versus baby face either.
But they do it, man, and that's the thing. I don't, they don't adhere to that nature of wrestling. They'll have two heelish guys go at it, and you're not sure who's the baby face out of those. And here's two baby faces. So,
yeah, I don't like it though.
yeah. No,
I'd rather Ospreay go with the entire crowd. I'm sure he would. He's being British, but I'd like Ospreay to have the entire crowd and have his opponent have a ton of heat. That's what I want, and want that crowd to want him to win so bad that their nipples get hard. That's how bad I want them. Now I want Ospreay to win. And if you give him the Ospreay win already, I think you can have him establish the international title back to even something beyond what Orange Cassidy did with it. Again, similar to what RVD did with the TV title in ECW. And then he can lose it sometime later this year or early next year. And then he has that struggle to get that world championship. And he finally does it at All In 2025. That's how I would do it. It's not like, I get what you're saying about injuries and things like that. But Bryan Danielson's 43, 44 years of age, and he has a history of injury problems. Will Ospreay, 30, and he doesn't have many injury issues at all at this particular point in time. And he's starting to work a bit smarter. So I don't think you could go in there with a 30-year-old, might get hurt, so we have to do it now. I think you got to do what's best for your story. But that's me. Now, it's not saying that they will. They might do exactly what you're saying and shoehorn a world championship into Will Ospreay, on top of giving him the international championship and all that. But it's not what I would do. I would wait, especially because you have Bryan Danielson's last match at All In as well. And that could be and if that's going to be his last match as a full-time guy, last match for a while, then they might want a special moment with that as well. So those are a couple of things why I'm thinking that Ospreay doesn't get the world championship this year.
It's feasible, man. I get what you're saying, but I'm just, sharing with you what I'm thinking. I mean, I get what you're saying entirely, but I strike when the iron's out with this for sure.
Agree to disagree, Vladi.
Absolutely.
You're the reasonable one, right?
Absolutely. The masses have spoken.
Fuck that.
You're the one with the agenda. That was obvious.
Let me tell you something. Anyone who thought you were the reasonable one, I mean, I talked to my neighbor about it. He said I was the reasonable one, not you. So that's all I got to say about that. But it's okay. The debate is over. CM Punk versus the Elite. That's over. We're never talking about that again. I'm not. You can all you want. I'm not. Over it. But anyway. But we'll see. They have a lot of options, though. We'll see what happens. But you and I think, staunchly disagree on Hangman. We staunchly disagree on if Will Ospreay should win the world title. So it's okay. You could be wrong sometimes too, right?
I don't know. It hasn't really happened.
Well, women's division in AEW. Mercedes Moné wasn't on the show, right? Was she?
I don't know. It was Will and Nightingale and Statlander and Stokely.
Oh, whatever.
We go from Ospreay to this.
I don't know. Well, what else happened on the... I got to be honest with you, Body.
Yes.
I'm not remembering as much about Dynamite on top of my head as I'd like to. I don't have notes. You're the note teacher. You're the one who takes the meticulous notes and makes sure we are professional here. Not me. Yeah. I'm the guy with the marijuana painting above my head.
Yeah, I mean, I think we pretty much captured it. I mean, the Jericho match was friggin' ridiculous. It just adds to my hatred of him at this point. 6 minutes of slaps or whatever it was, man. Are you kidding me?
You do not like New Japan style pro wrestling. That's all I could say. That's fine, though.
I don't. I really, and it just, and then this was another Shivani one, man, right?
You really take notes on Shivani. That's how much you hate this guy. Holy shit.
At the point of Shibata having the garbage can over his head and Jericho was whacking on the side with the kendo stick, Shivani said, Shibata is just following the sound, because he was like walking towards Jericho.
What's wrong with that? He was.
Dude, he's getting it's getting hit to the side. You tell me he's just this is so ridiculous that I even got to even try to make sense of that statement by you, and even trying to justify or fight what Schiavone said there. He made the most asinine statement. The guy's getting hit on the side with a kendo stick and decides to walk forward because he's in a ring with Chris Jericho. He's just following the sound as if he's like Helen Keller in a match all of a sudden. You kidding me?
He's trying to help tell the story to the dumb ones, man. Schiavone could spin the greatest yarn of all time with the greatest poetry dripping off his mouth, and you would say it sucks. You hate Schiavone. You have an obsession with Tony Schiavone.
He's a fraud. He's a fraud.
Jesus, I thought I hated Michael Cole. The hatred you have about Tony Schiavone is incredible.
Tony Khan needs to realize that Schiavone holds this broadcast back too.
I think
too much of him.
I think he and Nigel. Well, I mean, there is that. I mean, you have about 25 broadcasters and commentators, and you have Schiavone getting the heaviest of the load. And by the way, he's also doing. I think he does the AEW podcast. I don't know if he's doing it anymore, but he initially did the AEW unrestricted podcast with Aubrey Edwards. He does his own podcast, but he also does all the YouTube stuff, all the online, like say they had the road to Winnipeg, they have the road to a pay-per-view, they have the road to a special Dynamite. He's always doing the stuff from the AEW Control Center, which I think is probably his basement. But either way, I don't know, man. You hate Schiavone. It's funny. Fuck you, buddy.
He drives me crazy.
Fuck you, buddy. That's all Schiavone's gonna say to you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, buddy. Fuck you.
Yeah, he can go fuck himself. I don't care.
Fuck you, buddy.
Remember when early on in AEW, I was like complaining to you about Schiavone, and I was like, dude, like count how many times he uses the word buddy, and you hadn't even realized it. And then like the next broadcast, you like text him, you're like, holy shit, he does say that a lot.
I haven't heard the buddy as much recently, by the way. So maybe he heard your critique and he took it to heart.
Probably he should.
Just like Triple H took my critique about making Bryan Danielson and putting Bryan Danielson over, or Daniel Bryan over WrestleMania 30 after I cut one of my first promos. I was fatter than I am now, and I'm pretty fat now. So go back, and I don't know if it's on this channel or another channel, but I should put it back up there. And it's over. It's like 11 years old after they put Batista over at the Royal Rumble.
No.
And I was like, you could put, and I basically told Triple H what he should do, and then they did it. Now, it only had 13 views. The chances of Triple H and Vince McMahon watching that and getting the idea from me is probably small. But they did do exactly what I said. So there.
Still saying that there was a chance.
You're saying there's a chance? I'll tell you right now, everybody. Tony Schiavone here. And Vladi Daddy can fuck him, buddy.
He is becoming my bane, man. I cannot stand him in the broadcast. I'm sorry.
It's just funny how much you hate Schiavone.
He's intolerable.
You don't get a lot of people who hate Schiavone. Like, there's a lot of people who can't stand Michael Cole. There's some people who don't, whatever. But Schiavone's, usually not too bad. I mean, people have been killing JR the last couple of years.
I see. I pay attention to Schiavone, and then the other thing I pay attention to is the pause of silence between Excalibur and Taz, just trying to figure out how do they play off of the stupidity. There's like an echo almost, and then I'm like, these guys aren't getting paid enough. Even Excalibur.
I think they would all disagree with you. I think they love working with Tony. Tony is beloved in AEW. I certainly think he's better at his job than JR is at this point in time, which I've said several times. And I don't know, there's something about Schiavone. I've been listening to this guy for 40 years, man, or almost 40 years, about 36 or 37 years.
Listen,
I like him.
You got your favorites. I get it.
He's not my favorite, but I don't.
You're tried and true.
Who do you think? I'm taking on. One of the things I'm doing is taking notes on Schiavone so I could bury him.
Because it's just asinine. Literally 33% of the things that he says are just completely asinine.
The reasonable Vladi Dottie being completely unreasonable about Mr. Tony Schiavone, the legend Tony Schiavone, the voice of WCW and the voice And one of the voices of AEW. Unbelievable.
He was also the voice that went and tried to spoil Mick Foley's moment upon winning the championship.
Well, that was directed by Eric
fraud.
Bischoff. That was directed by Eric Bischoff. You know, the classy Eric Bischoff who says everything to Tony, who buries Tony anytime Tony does something stupid. Bischoff buries him like Bischoff wasn't doing stupid shit either, like challenging Vince McMahon to a match at a pay-per-view and telling Tony Schiavone to tell everybody about Mick Foley so everyone changed the channel. That was a Bischoff thing. They'll put that on Schiavone. Come on. Where's Schiavone? Can't get a fair shake in this place.
No, not with me.
Well, Vladi Dottie, we had a great episode today. We got our Backlash preview in, and AEW got a majority of the conversation today for good reason. As far as I'm concerned, AEW has been the better product now for about 4 weeks. So God bless. Haven't said that in a very long time. And you know me, I'm the guy who calls it right down the middle. So
I agree. And the other thing is, too, the only thing I would say is to Tony Khan, I know he's listening, is that they need to start highlighting Swerve more. Highlight him, main event him with that championship belt. Don't give Moxley a main event and give Swerve, a mid-card match, less promo time, if you will. Highlight this guy. Shoot him to the moon, man.
And then have him drop the title to Will Ospreay in 4.5 months. Great job, Vladi.
And I'm just being honest. He's the only one that I would consider doing that with. But
I would agree.
Let me ask you this question, right? Was there ever a separation between Swerve and Cage and like the Gates of Agony or anything?
No, Prince Nana still comes out with them.
Okay, so then why didn't Brian Cage come out to help Swerve when the Patriarchy was there?
I don't know. I thought the same thing, though. Why didn't those guys come out and help them?
See, it's that sort of, and you and I discussed this like earlier about like those guys with Swerve. I'm like, they needed like a line of demarcation there, and now like you and I both see this, and it's like, oh, here comes Brian Cage, who's also managed and aligned with Swerve, but he just watched that from the locker room for some reason.
I mean, he might not have been there, or he might have been involved in something else. I mean, you could always write something on why they weren't available. So I'm not going to kill him for that. I mean, and we've seen WWE even in their heyday with Triple H stuff like. What was that for?
I'm not going to kill him for that. It's a critique, man. You and I discussed this earlier. It's not necessarily killing him. It's just, again, they're inconsistent with this bullshit. Swerve's a world champion. This is like the Russian running in the Pine Barrens to this day. Tie up the loose ends. Move on with it. And by all means, don't put Brian Cage on the same card. How about that? If you're not going to do anything with them.
What was Brian Cage on the show? He was on the show last night, wasn't
he? Yeah, he wrestled Claudio.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, why didn't this guy come out and save Swerve when he was getting his ass kicked by Kill Switch and Christian and company?
Getting ready for his match, possibly. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's
Starbucks double latte.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that a number of times, though. They should have explained it. If they're not going to show up, tell us why. Like have Excalibur say Brian Cage. So I see what you're saying. I don't know if it's a big deal, but I think it's something that, it's a detail that they should have done something. What you could have had, and I don't know if they did, but, Brian Cage is in the back getting ready for his match. He may not be knowing this is happening. Say something like that so you give us an idea of why they didn't come out. Or have Swerve next week and say, yo, where were you?
Yeah, that's the way to address it, honestly, because that would be a great way to tie up that loose end. Because as you can tell, I'm paying attention to the dialogue as I'm taking notes on what Giovanni's saying. They definitely did not acknowledge that moment, so...
No, they're going to need to. I think I'm with you a little bit there. But that being said, when was the last time we even saw Swerve in them at any point? In which, again, that kind of lays into your point. You're right. AEW does do that a lot. They have loose ends that aren't really there, especially with the factions. I remember the Pinnacle. Did the Pinnacle even break up? It just like they stopped existing.
Yeah, and right. And listen, you and I we're not gonna like necessarily waste breath on like a mid card or lower card guy. This is the world champ, man. Just like have some nice edges to this storyline and just go to the future with it, please.
you know what? We should go on the internet and talk about how Swerve that needs to be addressed so they can fix it next week. At least it can be fixed still, but they should address it. And we've seen that several times where it seems like a storyline or an alliance kind of fizzles out and they don't ever really explain it. It's been happening. It happened back in WCW, it happens in WWE, it happens here. But with it being your world champion and you want to be careful with how you're booking him, you got a point. You do have a point.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's a big deal, but it is something that's,
if I was being nitpicky about it, I'd be like, what's his name? Murder Hawk and the two hippie guys. You know what I mean? Like they kind of aligned them and now they're not, you don't really see them together again. I'm not going to lose sleep over that by any means, but.
We had a triples match a couple weeks ago on Rampage.
Okay, so last time I saw Murder Hawk was during that speed dating match with Ospreay. So I didn't see Jay come out. I didn't see, those two other guys. So I was just curious, but
yeah, and I think they wrestled the Acclaimed. As a matter of fact, they either wrestled the Acclaimed or the Bullet Club Gold.
Oh,
they wrestled for one of the championships. I think it was the Acclaimed, but I'm not sure.
Before we leave, just this last question before we end the show.
Yeah.
Because you're I definitely got to say you're the resident expert on this guy. And I'm still waiting on it. Does Bullet Club Gold have the right to step in there with the EVPs in terms of a challenge or an alliance? Like, how would you play it with Jay White versus the Bucks versus Omega?
I wouldn't have Jay White mess with this storyline at this point in time, to be honest with you.
Keep him away from it? Okay.
I would keep, because I want to keep Jay White with heat. I want, for fuck's sake, I still want Bullet Club Gold to go. Why aren't they going? Why isn't anybody going after Adam Cole? Fuck.
Right.
I mean, Jay White, again, and the thing is, you're going to see in some capacity, and the thing is, Adam Cole's not turning heel anytime soon either.
Right.
Or turning babyface anytime soon either. So that was just, again, it's like one of those things that they did so many stupid things last year booking wise, just dumb, stupid things that didn't make sense. And so, I think they got to kind of let Jay White, they can have this run. By the way, why do they have 3 championships?
I don't get that. I was going to ask you that as well. I'm like, did I miss something or what? What's up here?
I'm assuming that one is it was kind of like when Roman had the new title and then Paul Heyman was still carrying around the other 2 titles.
Yeah.
It could be that. But I thought that was weird because one title I didn't recognize. And all 3 of them had it. So it has to be some kind of trios title of some capacity. So I'm assuming it's
the original. They have the original AEW ones, the pink acclaimed ones, plus the Ring of Honor ones, probably.
Yeah, they have those 2, and then I think they may have the new one, which is the undisputed one. But why are you going to carry around all the titles? It's stupid. They haven't done a great job with Bullet Club Gold, and I love Jay White. He's one of my favorites. But I think you got to build them. You got to have them just be their faction for now, and then let Jay White take a little bit more of a center stage in 2025. Let him still go out there. He's still having singles matches. Go out there, be entertaining. Go out there and have your good matches, and you'll see what comes to the fruition after that. But
maybe it's Jay White versus Ospreay for the international title at Wembley.
That would be great. I would love it. Yeah. And they know those 2 know each other very, very well. And you actually felt the energy when those 2 were in the ring. And I think you mentioned it last time. In Jacksonville, you felt the energy when those 2 were there. Similar to the energy, again, a lot of these fans were big New Japan fans. So for a guy who watched New Japan 4 or 5 years ago, this is like really, it's New Japan stars being presented in an American style way. And it's very exciting for a guy who watched New Japan and, watched several G1s and really understood what the product is and saw all these guys like Okada, Ospreay, Omega, all these guys come over and now being presented like this on American television. It's really exciting. It really is. And Jay White, you could throw him in there too, so yeah. I'm happy about where AEW is right now. I guess there's still going to be the negativity, and their fans are still going to be whatever they are, the gatekeepers. That's not easy to change when you have these jerk-offs online calling you a moron because you don't know who Jay White was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see. Again, the negativity needs to stop. But other than that, AEW's on. I'm liking it. Let's get a TV contract so we don't have to worry about anything else, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to see what your vibe was for the Jay White moving forward with this EVP storyline.
I think they'll probably hold on to those belts for a little bit. I think it's wasting.
No, you told me. I was just that's what I wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know. There's too much at the top right now.
Yeah.
So, especially because you're going to bring in some more people with this storyline with the EVPs. Like we know Hangman's going to play a part somewhere, whether he's babyface or heel. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. And AEW is on the road already to Double or Nothing. And we have Backlash this weekend, and then we're going to have, we have the same picks for this stupid pay-per-view that WWE is having. So I'm only going to have Double or Nothing to try to retain my championship. Hopefully there's a couple of differences that we can pull together. And we'll see. And I can continue to be a dominant Purple Nurple champion.
It's just tainted.
Whatever.
Perineum. Completely.
No.
On that note, you have a great night, Mr. Valli.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you later, Vladi. You can go. I'll do the sign off on my own. Thanks, pal. Thank you, everyone.
I don't know. Maybe you want to bring up the mid-card women's division again.
Well, I was trying to pick out some things. Usually, you're Mr. Guy with all the notes. You have them bang, 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 bang. I was expecting that. We kind of went. You were too busy trying to find ways to bury and spread propaganda about my favorite commentator ever, Tony Schiavone. Poor Tony Schiavone. Look you, buddy.
Oh my God. So yeah, I'm gonna start getting transcripts of Tony Schiavone's dialogue from these shows, man.
No, Tony Schiavone he's not a fan of you at this particular point in time. He's very angry with you.
Yeah, there's bad blood. You want to see a blood feud? It's me and Schiavone.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to High Spots and Cheap Hops. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, anywhere else, please, thank you. Comment, send us any feedback you want. If you're on YouTube, we want to thank you guys too. We are now well over 1,100 subscribers. We are on our way to continuing to grow our community. You can also hit us up on Facebook, High Spots and Cheap Hops, and of course our High Spots and Cheap Hops professional wrestling fan page that is growing every single day as well. So we are on a trajectory of the likes we have never seen before here on High Spots and Cheap Hops. So for Vladi, this is Silicon Steve Valley. For High Spots and Cheap Hops, here at the lesson. Fuck you, buddy.